collaboration with the Cyprus Mail. This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
Coming up this week, we'll talk about the Fatherhood Initiative, which is trying to bring dads into closer contact with their children.
Many men do understand the importance of this role, but what we notice is that certain roles that existed in the past decades or in the past centuries tend to be reproduced by certain means through society and through the law system.
And as we mark the 14th of August, which is of course the second Turkish invasion of Cyprus back in 1974, we'll talk about a project that started out as a book and is now about to be shown on television here in Cyprus.
He used my material, but he also involved the people of Phlamoudhi themselves to tell in their own voice what happened to them. And that's the great transition from my observations as a foreigner, as an outsider from many years ago, to the people of today, saying what that village meant to them in their lives, and what, also in part, my photographs being brought back to them at such a late date has meant to them.
When they talk about the silly season, well, this is about the time of year they mean. Pretty well everyone in the centre of Nicosia has departed for the coast. The island shuts down for the August summer holiday, but we'll bring you a couple of stories we hope you'll find interesting. Welcome to the Cyprus News Digest.
You can subscribe to the Cyprus News Digest on iTunes for free and get the program downloaded to your phone or tablet so you can listen anytime, anywhere.
14th of August is, of course, the anniversary of the second wave of the 1974 Turkish invasion of Cyprus. Joining us on the Cyprus News Digest this week, a pleasure to have three people who've got close connections with our country. Ian Cohn has written a book called The Faces of Phlamoudhi, we've spoken about it before, which documents the lives and indeed the upset to those lives of the villagers of Phlamoudhi now in the occupied areas. Rupert Barclay went to a talk of Ian's and decided as a filmmaker he needed to make a film about this. His wife Katerina Barclay has produced the film, and it's going to be shown on Antenna Television tonight. So let's start with the ladies first. Katerina, how did you come, because you are a Cypriot of course, but you don't live in Cyprus permanently.
No, I don't.
How did you come to be involved in this? Was it Rupert coming home saying, this is your country too and you must do this?
Sort of, yes. The credit does go to him, but my cousin Sava Yodyu, who was heavily involved with Ian on producing the book, was very interested in this and together they hosted a lecture in London, and we went along and were fascinated by this story, and we just felt, we went home that evening over a glass of wine and sort of said, yeah, this is a story that needs to be told, and it's so close to our hearts and my heart, because both my parents are refugees and my father's from the neighbouring village and my uncle's from Phlamoudhi, so it's a story that is very close to my heart.
Rupert, you've, congratulations, won an award for this film as well. Tell us about that.
Yes, last October the film showed at the London Greek Film Festival, and I won Best New Director, which I was very, very happy with, very happy.
It is a documentary, but you're also a filmmaker in a sense, aren't you? Because your job is working, I think, with film and TV and so on.
Yes, that's right.
How did you approach it as a documentary, or did you try and bring a little bit more of the film side of things into it as well?
Yes, well, good question. Now, this was my debut as a producer-director, and so it was very much a learning experience for me, which is one of the things that I wanted to get out of the whole experience. And obviously I had the structure of Ian's book and his lecture and everything in place, but at the same time, whilst I started the filming, I wanted to sort of leave. I didn't want it all to be too written down. I wanted there to be some fluidity, some leeway in the edit. because I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to get when I came and did the interviews over here in Cyprus with the Phlamoudhi.
And Ian, I mean, when you saw the film, I think you were thrilled, weren't you? Because you felt that it was a pretty true reflection of the book. But for people who haven't seen the book, tell us a little bit about how you came to do that. It was almost an accident, wasn't it?
It was, thank you. And Rosie, it's been 6 years that you and I have been talking together on your shows about this book, and it's very special to me to be invited back. I was a student, and I was a participant in an archaeological dig in Phlamoudhi in 1972. In my spare time, I photographed the village and ended up being invited into the homes of a very large percentage of the population and formed a friendship with many of them. Of course, the war came shortly thereafter, and there was a disconnect of many, many years. Through a series of very serendipitous events, I found myself reconnected with archaeology, reconnected with the people of Phlamoudhi, in particular Savas Georgiou, Katerina's cousin. Savas helped me put together the book in terms of putting the names to the faces that I had recorded in my photographs. And when I came to Cyprus in 2009 to mount the exhibition at the Cyprus Museum of the Photographs, I got reconnected with the people of Phlamoudhi. We revisited Phlamoudhi at that time in the occupied area, and I could tell that there was a story about how the community had managed to keep itself together in diaspora despite all of the terrible things that had occurred, and how strong they were as a people as a result of their efforts to maintain the sense of community. That formed the basis of my lecture. But what I like to, you asked my reaction to Rupert's film, and it is one of being not only thrilled that somebody took what I considered a very simple talk about a people who had become a part of my life, and he's told it in a way that I would like to suggest is in the Homeric tradition. People knew the story of Odysseus, and it was told by many people, but Homer became famous because of the way he told the story. And Rupert has found a way, with great sensitivity, to tell the story of Phlamoudhi. He used my material, but he also involved the people of Phlamoudhi themselves to tell in their own voice what happened to them. And that's the great transition from my observations as a foreigner, as an outsider from many years ago, to the people of today, saying what that village meant to them in their lives, and what, also in part, my photographs being brought back to them at such a late date has meant to them.
Katerina, Ian talked there about the disconnect and the old days, but now here we are in Cyprus, and I'm sure that this visit you've noticed a big difference in the mood here about the possibility, finally, of some sort of Cyprus settlement. Do you think the villagers in that event will go back to Phlamoudhi?
The golden question, will they go back? I mean, it's been 41 years now. I mean, I know from my parents, they think of the olden days as this sort of golden utopic, sort of wonderful existence that they had. But would they go back if there was a solution tomorrow? I don't think they would go back and live in their villages. But I think they would definitely sort of want to go and visit and want to go and reconnect with these villages. But as for living back there again, I don't know. I don't think they would.
Have you two gentlemen noticed a difference as well this time?
Well, we've only been here for a few days, and I've yet to really get into any serious discussions about it. But clearly, if things look different this time, then that would be very significant. But I need to talk to people a bit more before I can make any real conclusions.
Ian, you've been here a little longer than a few days because you've been down in Paphos, I think, working on a different archaeological dig. What's the feeling down there? Because, of course, if there are quite a lot of Turkish Cypriot villages in the Paphos area, just as there are so many Greek Cypriot ones in the occupied areas, what's the feeling that you get?
Well, the sense that I got is one of cautious optimism. I think you're right. There's a different sense in the air, and I get the sense that there are very real possibilities, because the people who are negotiating are themselves good friends and have a reason on that basis to see that this thing is brought to a conclusion. You mentioned the existence in the Paphos area of Turkish villages, or what were Turkish villages, and I had the good fortune of spending about a month in Lemba, which was a combined Greek and Turkish Cypriot village. And it's the closest experience I have had in Cyprus to what it was like living in Phlamoudhi before the war. It was very wonderful, peaceful, and untouched, unspoiled by all of the changes that the last 41 years have brought to the island, in a way that really made it possible, I think, for people that I was with when I talked to them about Phlamoudhi to understand what Cypriot life was like, and I can only wish the best.
Well, you're going to reach a whole new audience with this being shown on antenna television, Rupert. It's being shown, I think, lunchtime today, and again repeated in the small hours of tonight, tomorrow morning.
Absolutely, yes, 12:30. And then later again at 1 in the morning. Yes, and it's very exciting. I'm very happy that it's going to be shown on television here.
And we should add that it has both English and Greek subtitles.
No, the version that's going on television here has subtitles in the Greek. The English spoken word has Greek subtitles. Yes.
So you've made more than one version?
I have, yes, depending on the audio. Yeah, just purely for different subtitles. Yes, depending on who's watching it.
Well, and I think you had a lot to do as well with those subtitles.
I did, yes. I translated all the Greek into English, and we conducted all the interviews together as well back in 2011, and our little girl was very small, and I was pregnant with my second, and we were sort of going around Cyprus meeting all these wonderful people, and of course the dialect they speak in Cypriot. So translating that and finding their voice was really fun for me, actually. We have hours and hours of footage and all these fascinating people and all the stories they had to tell and the colourful language that they use, and trying to emulate that in the English subtitles. Hopefully I've done them justice and their character shines through. So yeah.
So there you are. Look out for The Faces of Phlamoudhi on antenna television today and again much later tonight.
In collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
The biggest achievement of Crime Stoppers has been the ability of the public to be able to give information about crime anonymously.
There's no way I could have kept prostituting without the drugs. There's no way I could have had my body used like a public toilet, because that's actually what prostitution is.
And then the fourth series I started 3 days after I'd won the Oscar, so the whole of the Monarch of the Glen experience was all interplatted with the Gosford Park Oscar experience.
I was working with Ronnie James Dio, and David was going to reform Whitesnake in 2003.
Cyprus was chosen because Cyprus is a stable, peaceful and secure place.
We have to really look closely. What are we doing with children? What are we doing with adolescents? And what are we doing with adults that can help them move into a more literate situation?
The ones that I'm proudest of are the ones that were true discoveries, where we found something we didn't know existed.
We hear a lot about single parents and usually about single mothers, but spare a thought for fathers who, for one reason or another, don't have contact with their children. With me on the programme this week is Marios Panou. He's the man behind the Cyprus Fatherhood Initiative group. Marios, tell us why you formed this group and what it does.
This group was formed to serve certain purposes, like promoting fatherhood and promoting fathers' active and positive involvement in their children's lives.
Which people who are still married pretty well take for granted, although I think in Cyprus fathers tend to leave a lot of the upbringing to the women, but this is particularly of concern, of course, to people who are separated or divorced.
Actually, we are trying to promote fatherhood among married fathers as well, because more and more fathers tend to involve more with their kids, but many fathers still have
they have a mindset, don't they?
A mindset that the main child care should be for the mothers and the fathers should be only providers. And to us, this is not proper. We should be equal in our parental roles.
What reaction have you had from men that you've talked to about this?
Mostly positive. There are many people who contacted us and told us that you have awakened us and you give proper messages to society that need to be exposed to society.
Do you think that men in Cyprus understand the importance of a father's role in a child's life, that it isn't just about providing, and the other thing, of course, they're assumed to be doing here is any discipline that needs doing?
Many men do understand the importance of this role, but what we notice is that certain roles that existed in the past decades or in the past centuries tend to be reproduced by certain means through society and through the law system.
And also through the family, because if you've been brought up in a home where the father isn't involved with his children, there's a pretty big chance that when you have children, if you're a boy, you'll do the same thing.
Yeah. For instance, if we examine the whole human history, from antiquity, there were discrete roles between genders regarding their parental roles. There was the role of the father, who was like a protector or a provider, or the one that had to do more discipline for the kids, and the one who was at a distance from children. And there was the role of the mother, who was the main carer. And unfortunately, this thing is still, in some ways, reproduced.
How are you going to change that through the Fatherhood Initiative? I mean, I think that you're hoping that you can make legal changes maybe in terms of things like parental leave, which is not something we hear a great deal about in Cyprus.
It's not just parental leave. For us, we need to follow a more integrated approach to achieve our purposes. For instance, I am a primary school teacher, and one of the things I do is I cooperate with other partners from Cyprus Fatherhood Initiative, and we prepared educational material in which the idea of gender equality in all domains, including our parental role, is promoted. And this educational material is suitable for children of primary school. And one of the things we are going to do in the future is to be in contact with the Minister of Education and try to promote this material into schools, into primary education and secondary education.
We need more books, don't we, that in Greek, that show stories where it's obvious that parents have an equal role in the upbringing of their kids, because a lot of the books that are available in the schools tend to be on the old role models.
Not only on the schools, everywhere. For instance, you may go to a supermarket and you see two shelves, toys for boys, toys for girls. And toys for boys are toys that have to do with handwork,
handiwork,
external jobs, not in the house, war, violence.
And the pink things for girls are all about looking after the dolls, cooking, and those sort of things.
So in some way these roles are socially produced.
You've got a big job on if you're going to try and change the entire way society looks at gender issues and gender equality. But
Yes.
you mentioned you're a primary school teacher. I bet you're one of the only male primary school teachers in your school.
Yes, there are many women. In the past year there were 3 or 4 men with me. Yes.
So in all walks of life, we tend to accept the status quo that puts
Yes.
men in a very different position from women.
Yes, and this doesn't only apply for working activities. It also applies for ways of behavior. For instance, it is expected from men not to show their emotions that much, not to show their love for their kids that much, to be distant from their kids. It is expected from women to be closer to the kids. It is expected from women to be more emotional to their kids. And this thing has to change. What we must all think is that we are all human beings, and we all have the right and the ability to express our feelings, to express our emotions, to show love.
We also have,
to be
all of
parents.
us, regardless of gender, an emotional need to do that. So that in a sense, the way things are at the moment is denying men the fulfillment of that emotional need and is suppressing, in boys particularly, any desire they may have to cry or to show their emotions.
It's also suppressing somehow to girls too. For instance, if a girl likes
playing
football or playing with superheroes,
or a boy likes playing with dolls, worries fathers a lot more, doesn't it? You see, we're talking now about issues that then go into other bigger
domains.
Areas
Yes.
in terms of sexual preferences and all the rest of it. So in a way, it's a whole Pandora's box you are unleashing here. Now, I know that on Facebook you have a lot of women followers who
around
feel
60% of our followers in our Facebook page are women.
Many of whom, I think, feel that they would prefer their husbands to have more input into family life.
If we analyze the profile of these women, we may notice that daughters who were alienated from their fathers contacted us. Grandmothers who were alienated from their grandchildren contacted us. Married mothers who wish more involvement from the father came in contact with us, as well as even divorced mothers.
Okay, how are you going to get this out there? I mean, are you running lectures? Are you going to be going and visiting schools or holding conferences and seminars so people can come and discuss these issues? Because a lot of people, I think, don't even think about them. They just accept what's going on.
Of course, what you mentioned now is one of our future plans, but we are at an initial stage of forming. We are still unofficial as a group. We are not official. We don't make official group meetings and have a board of taking decisions. But yes, we ought to do all these things in order to promote our ideas and change the whole society in such way as to achieve real gender equality in all domains.
And one of the things in the article I read in the Cyprus Mail that you mentioned, which again a lot of people probably never occurs to them, is that baby changing facilities in commercial premises are usually in the ladies' toilet. So if you're a dad out with a baby and you need to... Yes.
Yes. That was just a simple example of many other. There are many other things. If we examine it by its own, it may seem unimportant, but
as part of the bigger picture, it's
yes.
a big brushstroke. So, where can people find out more? Get in touch, join you, bring their suggestions.
They may contact us through our Facebook page or They may visit our webpage at www.cyprusdads.org. They may contact us through Gmail. We have a Gmail and phone number on our webpage as well as on our Facebook page.
www.cyprusdads.org. That's the Cyprus Fatherhood Initiative. And we've been talking to the founder, Marios Banal. Thanks for joining me. Well, that's about it for this week's edition. I won't be here next week, but I hope you'll join me next time on the Cyprus News Digest. Happy summer. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.